In a couple of past videos, I've talked about ways we can reduce the risk of injury on the Appalachian Trail. Now our topic is staying healthy and preventing illness on the AT or other long trails. It is possible, of course, to get sick on the AT. We need to consider the risks, particularly if we plan a hike lasting for weeks or months. It's also important to remember that among the medical issues that might strike along the AT, in every case there are some steps that can be taken to reduce our risk. Some of these ailments are more dangerous than others, and some are more common than others. We'll run down the list in no particular order. This list is only an introduction to the subject. If we want details, we can talk to our physician or look up most of these ailments on the U.S. Center for Disease Control website. First is Lyme disease. More than 28,000 cases of Lyme disease were confirmed in the United States in 2015. A large percentage of the cases were in an area bounded on the south by northern Virginia and on the north by southern Maine, and the Appalachian Trail runs right through that area. That area is crawling with the ticks that can cause Lyme disease. If we get Lyme disease, we need to see a doctor. Lyme disease can be treated with antibiotics. A test can identify Lyme disease, but the most recent information I have seen suggests about 36% of the negative test results are in fact incorrect. If we get a false negative, it might complicate our chances of getting treatment. Another problem is that some people's symptoms can last many months and treatment can be a problem. See the link in the description for more on that. In another video, I talked about ticks and preventing Lyme disease, and these were among the main points. In the description is a link to permethrin treatment of hiking clothes. There are several ways to catch a nasty case of diarrhea along the AT. Two of them involve microscopic parasites. One of those is Giardia. Traditionally, Giardia is considered a risk of drinking untreated water. But one fairly recent study suggests that dirt and failure to keep our hands clean causes more Giardia cases than untreated water. That's because the Giardia organisms do not need standing water to survive. They can live in soil. Because the parasites travel through our digestive system, any oral contact with the fecal source can also transmit Giardia. The same is true of Cryptosporidium, another microparasite. As most hikers know, water treatment and filtration products are designed to protect us from these parasites in our drinking water. A few years back, a public swimming pool near my home became infected with crypto and infected many people, mostly children. A newspaper article quoted a doctor as saying those afflicted easily can keep reinfecting themselves unless they wash their hands frequently, particularly after a bowel movement. Another cause of trail diarrhea is Norovirus. It can be spread from person to person by contaminated surfaces or fecally contaminated food or water. Because it is a virus, it cannot be prevented by hand sanitizer. Other bacteria have the potential of causing diarrhea. We fight bacteria by keeping our hands and eating utensils clean. Giardia, crypto, and norovirus can all be spread if hikers share food with each other when that food is being handled by more than one person. On the AT, I found I could keep my hands pretty clean by going over them with a bandana soaked in water. I've always carried a very small bottle of antibacterial soap on the AT, but I've never used it because I felt my hands in fact were staying pretty clean. On the other hand, if I ever decide I need to use soap on my hands on a trail, I will have some ready to go. There are other viruses that can lurk in the outdoors. One is West Nile virus. It is commonly spread by mosquitoes in the United States, and a hiker could contract it in an environment like the AT. Only 1% of the cases are severe. Some cases are so mild the patients might not think much of anything is happening. I have included Hantavirus because it's caused by rodents and the AT is crawling with mice. The biggest percentage of U.S. cases are in fact in the western states. The virus is transmitted by contact with rodent urine, saliva, or feces. If we don't hang our food on the AT, and a mouse, for example, gets into our pack and eats part of a granola bar, the safest plan is to put that granola bar in our trash bag. We will find a broom in many shelters along the AT, and it's a good idea to use the thing. Heat exhaustion and heat stroke are two different conditions with different symptoms. Heat stroke is considered to be the worst of the two, and we are generally advised to call 911 and seek medical help if someone gets heat stroke. The main difference between the two is heat exhaustion involves excessive sweating, and heat stroke involves no sweating. Another difference is that with heat exhaustion, the skin feels cold and clammy. With heat stroke, the body temperature rises up to 103 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. A heat exhaustion patient can be helped by cooling them off and giving them water if they are conscious. If I found myself becoming overheated, I would stop and take immediate action before things got worse. One response can be to stop physical activity immediately. In some areas, it can help if we get into the shade. Having an ample water supply also can help us keep cool. If we made the correct gear and clothing choices appropriate for the worst weather we might encounter, odds are low we will experience hypothermia on the AT. It also helps to keep moving if we want to stay warm. If all else fails and we are shivering badly, an effective response is doing what it takes to get into our sleeping bag as soon as we can manage it. If we hike on the AT in the spring, there is good news. Successful northbound AT thru hikers are almost unanimous in their experience that water is abundant everywhere. During the rest of the year, however, that might not be the case. In the autumn weeks immediately preceding this recording, the southern end of the AT was hit by a severe drought and springs dried up by the score. During this time, many wildfires also broke out. The first symptoms of dehydration can include dry mouth, swollen tongue, weakness, dizziness, and dark urine. If we are sweating like crazy, electrolytes and a modest salt intake can reduce the risk of dehydration. If we don't consume enough salt, the result could be hyponatremia. In particular, it can strike if we are drinking large amounts of water without enough salt to go with it. I suspect that compared to other people, my water consumption on the AT has been pretty high. I also would suspect that drinking electrolyte drinks and eating plenty of salty food kept me out of trouble. If we eat freeze-dried backpacking food, for example, we might be shocked at the amount of sodium it contains. But if we are hiking in really hot weather, then sodium might be what we need. For a long time, it has been a practice to make salt tablets available to some athletes and those working in hot environments. Salt tablets are still sold today. You can find them on Amazon.com. If we leave blisters untreated, we run the risk of those blisters becoming infected and dripping pus into our socks. Unless we are confident we have feet of iron, we are well served if we are prepared to prevent blisters and treat those that do happen. I earlier did a separate video on blisters. The link is in the description. The next item is actually more of a medical condition than it is an illness, but I would imagine more hikers experience this than anything else on our list. That is when our sweat and/or our clothing smells like urine. I have read this is caused by ammonia in sweat, usually attributed to the body burning muscle instead of fat or carbohydrates. Most of what I can find on this comes from sports websites. Medical websites don't seem to have much to say about it. In the absence of any accompanying symptoms, it apparently is not a serious issue, but it would suggest eating more carbohydrates is needed because most sources say eating enough carbs will prevent this from happening. So that's it. Now we're done. I hope we all stay healthy out there. Thanks a million to my subscribers. If you have not yet subscribed, please think about doing so. And like I always say, thanks a million for watching.